So camp.
Stop laughing at me. It's not even funny.
Yes, it is.
Hi, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Sam.
And this is The Empty Closet.
The show for everyone, whether you're in the closet
Or out and proud.
or somewhere in between.
Pride was this weekend, Sam. I went along to so many different events. There were a few things that I even saw you at. Tell me, what were your impressions?
I mostly went along to Fair Day, and Fair Day for me is the highlight of the Pride calendar because it's probably the most community-orientated event, I think. It includes absolutely everyone who wants to come along. You get a lot of people who just kind of, happen by and want to have a look. There's lots of young people involved, lots of families, and I just really like that for something different.
I always get the impression, like, at Fair Day, it's a whole bunch of people who you never ever see anywhere else the rest of the year. And it's like, this is that one opportunity to catch up with them. And, like, my trip to Fair Day was basically like, I did one lap around the stalls and it took me like 4 hours because I stopped to talk to everybody.
Yeah, I got there before Andrew, for those of you playing along at home.
I have an excuse because I went to the party the night before and I was very tired.
No, that's not the point. The point is I got there before Andrew and I was inside and I said, come and meet me at the fiery stall because I had a friend who was there as a fiery, handing out wooden spoons to warn about, watching you were cooking and flyers about smoke alarms. And I said, come in and meet me. Oh yeah, I'll be there at this time. And you got there a little bit after that. And then it took you like an hour and a half to get in the gate. And much later, you still weren't at the fiery stall because I'd gone down to meet you, gone out, come back in, waited for a while, sitting down going, how many people can Andrew run into in like a 20-meter space? And last I saw, you still hadn't made it to I think I dragged you over to the Fireys bit about 3 hours later.
I did eventually make it to the Fireys stall and I got a wooden spoon and some sort of fun comment about why I needed a wooden spoon. Sam's like, oh, of course. So I did actually eventually make it there. I didn't make it to the bottom tank. So, for everyone who's listening who is not in Cairns or has never been to Pride Fair Day, the way that Cairns does it is, they have it at this big art centre, like it's called the Tanks because it's a bunch of, I think they were water tanks, that now are not used for the water supply because the town has grown so big around it. But they used to be used as a water supply. They're now empty. They have one as a gallery and 2 that are like performance spaces. And I managed to look at 2 out of the 3 tanks. So I didn't manage to get to one of them. And I feel like that one had a lot of cool stuff in it that I just did not get to see. Did you get to see it?
Yeah, I got to duck my head in, which was pretty cool. I just like the tanks as a venue. For those of you who've never been, they're these big cement structures in the middle of the rainforest. Like, they're surrounded by all this luscious greenery. So it's a really chill kind of area. Like, it's very relaxed and, natural.
It was so chilled out. And actually, the whole day was really chilled out. It was like hanging out in the middle of the rainforest. One thing that I need to remember for next time to make my experience better is to remember to spray bug repellent on my legs.
Or you could walk faster and the bugs won't get you.
The bugs will still find me. They've got like, it's like homing pigeons trying to find my legs. It's like they're heat-seeking missiles or something.
Now, I did, as you said, you get to run into lots of people that you don't necessarily see outside of Fair Day or you don't get to catch up with throughout the year. And I thought that was a lot of fun. But it seems like there's 2 big highlights of Fair Day for a lot of people. One of them is the dog show. And that's a recurring event where everyone has the cutest dog and the best dressed dog, and there's like prizes and a contest. There's always dogs walking around. But the other one, which I think might be new, that seemed very popular and I didn't get to watch, was Are You Smarter Than a Drag Queen? Did you go to that?
Did I go to it? Sam, I competed in it and I won 2 giant containers of lube because I answered one of the questions better than one of the drag queens.
What was the question? Can we say it? Is it rude?
It was actually a little bit personal, Sam. It was, Andrew has been introduced to stage at Tropical Pride before as Kansas' oldest something. And I think everybody will be able to find the answer to that if they listen back to all the previous episodes of our podcasts. I think it was about 2 years ago that you'll hear me absolutely distraught about what I was introduced as. Thanks, Destiny. At this year's Pride, there were heaps of stickers being handed out. Like, this was at the fair day, and I came home, I'm very proud, with 2 stickers. One was Junior Officer and the police logo on it. Don't ask me how I got a child sticker.
I have some ideas, and some of them are silly and some of them are not for public consumption.
I'll leave that up to your imagination. One way or another, I got a child sticker that said that I am a junior officer. I'm pretty sure that I wasn't supposed to have it, but it was amazing. I got some mileage out of that. I wore it to the after party as well, and I introduced everyone. I introduced myself to everyone as Junior Officer Wheatland, and they all thought it was hilarious. Or I think they thought it was hilarious. You know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, so moving on from your budding career as a police officer, what was the other sticker?
So the other sticker was, you know how when you go to like a meeting and it's like, my name is, and you have to write your name on it. So think about a sticker like that, but it had like a queer rainbow on it, and you could get them in different sorts of rainbows. I selected the one that had the gay, well, what is most commonly termed as the gay rainbow, as opposed to like the colours of the bisexual flag, that sort of thing.
I think the others from memory there was the trans flag, and there was the non-binary flag, and then there was the gay rainbow flag.
Right, so I got the gay rainbow flag because I like having all the colours, and then it said, instead of my name is, it said my pronouns are, and you fill in your pronouns. So for me, I put in like he, him, and his. And it started a little bit of discussion, I must say, because I wore it around for the whole day, and there were quite a few people that asked me about it. They were like, what's this name badge about? And I also saw other people wearing them, but they perhaps didn't take it as seriously as me. They had like, my pronoun is sir, or like Superman, or, you know, other such things.
Yeah, and look, I really like these stickers because they were there last year. These stickers were from the trans youth group in Cairns, which is an amazing group, shout out, and we need to talk about them. In the future, we need to have a chat more. But supporting young people who are genderqueer, who are trans, who are fluid, who are questioning, whatever. And so the idea is to normalise discussion about pronouns. So I get really excited about them because this is really the only time of the year and the only place where I'm really comfortable specifying that my pronouns are they, them, and their.
And it makes it interesting because I think amongst the broader community, like if you're not in a space where you have friends who have disclosed to you that they are trans or gender fluid or would like you to use different pronouns with them, it doesn't show up on your radar, you know, like it's very difficult to get the visibility there. So this is one way of getting some visibility there.
Yeah, and I like the idea of normalising having this discussion. So I was wearing my genderqueer flag one that said my pronouns are they, them. And I had at least one person asking me about it. They said, what does this mean? And I was like, well, these are my pronouns. No, but what does that mean? And I'm like, well, you know, if you see a bag there and you don't know whose it is, you go, oh, someone's left their bag there. You don't say someone's left his bag there or her bag there if you don't know. So that's the singular they. And they looked a bit confused, but I think they wrapped their mind around it eventually. And it was a little bit strange to explain it because they were really good-hearted about it. They weren't confrontational, but it was still a bit, I had a moment of, am I gonna be laughed at? Is this all right for me to explain? Is this gonna be fine? Like, I had a moment of self-doubt, and that went really well but then there were other people who were like, oh, I have to put my pronoun as, and it was something sexual, it was something innuendo, and I'm like, like, I see why you think this is funny, but at the same time, that's not the point.
Well, and I think some of the pronouns that people had written down, like, they were funny for people who are exactly like them, but perhaps someone who doesn't belong to their same clique or their same group might read it and be like, oh, that's not a nice thing to say.
Yeah, exactly. It was very in-jokey, or even some of it, whether intended or not, kind of almost made a joke out of the idea of it, and I didn't like that aspect. But I thought the stickers were fantastic.
Sam, I have a story about pronouns.
Is it? I'm nervous, but share.
So, as you probably are aware from recording the show with me for so long, I am quite liberal with calling people by the wrong pronouns. Sometimes in jest, sometimes as an honest mistake. And the honest mistake ones are, like, really embarrassing usually.
Yeah.
So I do this thing sometimes where, particularly if there's a guy who's, like, really secure about who he is, then I'll joke around and refer to him as a she.
Yes.
I refer to myself as she all the time.
Oh, yes, I've heard you do that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I joke around with a lot of my gay and queer mates the same way, especially when I think that they're in the mood for joking around. And this, I didn't realise, but this habit of calling people who don't actually identify as she, calling them she and her, has crossed over into my day-to-day life. I did it to someone at work the other day.
Like a coworker, or?
Like a coworker, yeah.
Okay, that could have been worse.
Like a coworker who, like, we joke around a lot at my workplace because you spend hours and hours together. You get to know each other really, really well. We joke around a lot, like most workplaces joke around. But anyway, so I referred to him as, oh, she doesn't do something, or, you know, it was a funny joke at the time. It probably is a terrible representation of it now. But he laughed, I laughed, everybody laughed, right? Then, 2 weeks later, he says a joke about me and used the pronoun she. And and it took like a few seconds for me to register that he was talking about me. and so then I had one of those moments where, like, when there's like an unacceptably long gap between the joke and between you being like, oh, that's funny.
The awkward pause.
Yeah, yep, exactly. So there was that long, awkward pause. But what I wanted to know is, obviously we had all our gender pronoun name tags on at Fair Day, but if I was to joke around with my mates, I would probably still, like, purposely misgender them in a kind of jokey, funny way. Is that offensive? Am I engaging in offensive behaviour?
Look, I'm gonna answer this as someone who is gender fluid, who prefers gender neutral pronouns, but realizes that my opinion is not the only opinion. So I can only tell you what I think. I think that it has a place. Like, I have no issue with drag queens referring to, a night with the girls when they all get ready and do their makeup and stuff like that. To me, makes sense. You are performing femininity. I struggle with it a bit when gay boys particularly when bottoms refer to other bottoms as girls, because I find it a little bit misogynistic, because while they're saying it as a joke, they're kind of saying it and it's looking down on women a bit. You don't ever see it going the other way unless people are looking to offend a lesbian. They're like, you're the man of the relationship. You don't see the jokes going the other way. You only see men joking about female pronouns that way. And I am a bit uncomfortable with that. Like, I grasp where the humour comes from.
But don't girls ever joke around and, like, purposely misgender their friends? I don't know. Like, I just do it.
No, it's not. This is not something that happens very often, because it's a little different. It depends what sphere you grow up in. So, I mean, I pass as a heterosexual woman, right? Doesn't matter that I am pansexual, demi-pan, you know, gender fluid queer person. I pass as a cisgendered straight woman. And so I get a lot of the cisgendered straight, social conditioning really, really affects me because I still move in that space a lot. And when you're talking to men and calling them women, it's often comparing them to being gay, which is why it's a little bit of a joke in the gay community, but straight boys will use it as an insult to each other, not as a joke. Like, they say it's a joke, but they're tearing their friends down. And women will be called mannish to dismiss them because unless you're saying it's one of the guys, and that's its own problematic little thing, you still won't call a woman he. Like, it's not a thing that happens. In my experience, maybe this is different for other people, but in my experience, if you're calling a woman a man, you're saying that she's not fuckable and that, you know, she's not really a woman, and that's gross. Like, or you see it used against people who someone thinks is trans, and it's used as a weapon.
Oh, I really hope that I haven't come across as using it as a weapon, but I am hearing you loud and clear that I'm engaging in lad joking stupid stuff. Our Pride Festival has just concluded, Sam, and I was walking away from the Pride Festival this year thinking, what a lovely time. We have such amazing, diverse LGBTIQ communities here, and I do say communities because often they're not like all lumped together. It's lots of small groups that come together. But it's nice that we all get together and fly the banner. And then, Sam, you were just saying, actually, Andrew... What conversations did you hear about these other groups? You just heard gay men.
That's not quite right. And the reason you just heard gay men is because that's what you're interested in, Andrew.
And the fact that I got home and I was like, hey, I'm going to post some photos of our diverse community. And I would go onto my social media to try and post some photos. And I'm like, literally, my camera was only pointed at half-naked boys. Which
is pretty typical for your... photography inclinations, maybe?
I take photos of people with clothes on too.
Sometimes.
It's a bit like one of my friends jokes that every time that I throw a party, I just fill a room with like guys who are possibly my type.
Maybe. Possibly.
Pretty much exclusively. They were like, I'm never getting invited to one of Andrew's parties because I'm a bottom.
No, you'll have like 3 other people there, and that's about it.
Only the bottoms that I know don't like the tops that I like.
Or straight women, so that they're not competition.
Straight women aren't competition amongst gay men.
Well, what if there's bisexual tops?
Well, this is something that I'll have to explore.
This is something you haven't considered before. Is it distressing?
Very distressing, Sam.
Anyway, moving on. So we were talking about the groups that were represented in an official capacity and people who were there at Pride Day.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, wasn't it lovely to see such diversity there? And Sam was like, actually, how many conversations did you hear about lesbian relationships and asexuality and things like that?
Yeah, so it's not... I actually think... I love Fair Day because I do think it is very diverse. I want to preface this by saying, you know, it's my favourite event of the calendar for a reason, and I think we do a fantastic job. But
we're a radio show and we're not advertising for them.
No. But there's a lot of... Fair Day is probably the best event I've seen for gender diverse people to express themselves. So there's like youth groups there, there's the pronoun stickers, starting conversations, you know, there's different flags, in sticker form and on people's clothes and things like that. But once you move away from gender, your gender, and you move towards your sexuality, because they are 2 different things, a lot of the sexuality focused stuff at Fair Day is about men who have sex with men. Now, that can be bisexual men or gay men. It can be cis men, trans men, but it's about men who have sex with men.
Yes, I can see that. But also, I walk away from it thinking we also, like, there was a big focus on, like, drag culture as well.
Yeah, so there's probably a lot more diversity in who's going than there is in the stalls that are there. Like, I can't think of really any stalls that were focused and marketed towards women, you know, particularly in the way that FNQ magazine is targeted a little bit more towards, you know, the people who like abs and muscly pecs.
I immediately thought when you're like, there were not shops targeted towards women, I was like, there was candle making there.
You're a terrible person.
And then I suddenly realised, actually, that was completely targeted at the gay boys. And it was run by gay boys.
Yeah, and there was all sorts of stuff there. But if it had a target of sexuality, because not everything did, then it was targeted largely at men having sex with men. And that's something that's a bit difficult to get around. Like, what do you have? A stall about ace information? How do you educate people about the ace spectrum, the different types of asexuality, and make that an interesting stall? Are you going to bake cakes that are different types of ace flag? Are you going to have puppet shows? Like, how are you going to do that?
Here's a cake that I made that is neither sweet nor savoury. Enjoy.
Although I have seen donuts used to explain asexuality, which I thought was pretty cool, which we don't have time to talk about.
Let's talk about it next. Donuts and asexuality, Sam. I'm intrigued. I thought that my idea of like a cake that was asexual, like not sweet or savoury, was a great idea. How can I do that with donuts?
Okay, so when you're explaining the different types of asexuality to people, you can use donuts. So you say, a person who is kind of asexual and aromantic, so they have no romantic or sexual attraction to other people whatsoever, they are someone who looks at a donut and maybe, you know, yeah, I can see the aesthetics, I can understand why people like it. I have no interest ever and always in eating a donut. Okay? Make sense so far?
Who doesn't ever want donuts? But yes, I understand.
Yes, but I mean, you could also say whoever doesn't want sex, couldn't you?
Yes.
So, and then you have grey ace. So grey ace people are people who experience sexual attraction, but it's very, very sporadic. So it's easier to tell people that you don't. So it might be someone who, in general, has no interest in donuts, but occasionally, for no foreseeable reason whatsoever, will just crave a donut. Like, you know, but it might be once a year. And they're like, oh, I really feel like a donut today. And the rest of the time, no interest in donuts.
And it's not like any donut. It's just like that one particular donut.
Yeah, there's something that kicks it off. And then a demisexuality. So demisexuality is someone who has to have a connection to somebody to feel sexually attracted to them. Now, this might be about trust, it might be about emotions, might be about a lot of different things. So I fall under the demi flag because I don't see someone and imagine sex with them without knowing anything about them.
Right, okay.
So if you're like me, it might be that, you know, I'm really not interested in donuts unless have you tried the recipe that Brendan makes? His donuts are amazing, but I won't eat any other donuts, just those donuts, you know, so it's very specific. It might be a flavour, it might be somebody's recipe, but it's very unique. No other donuts will do.
I'm not really sure whether donuts are a great food choice for this analogy. You could do it with other foods, right?
You could. But then people who are abstaining from sex but still are interested, they're on a diet. So they still like donuts, but they're not allowing themselves to eat it. So can you see the difference there?
I don't understand. Sam, you know what I have seen donuts being used for in gay boy world?
I don't think we should we talk about that? We can imagine that, surely.
I can't even say it. So I have seen there's a particular subset of the queer community that sometimes will have like photos of like, say, a donut that has just been freshly glazed for one reason or another.
Hint, hint.
I think it's usually the kind of people who think that they are the donut, not they're thinking of eating the donut. I don't know. It's weird.
Yes, it is a bit strange. No, look, to each their own. But anyway, so the idea, this is meant to be an analogy about asexuality and probably not about pornographic pictures, but we could go that way, I guess.
Sam, it's a donut.
Yeah, but I mean, again, I just, like, for me, I look at a donut and I'd like to eat it. I don't really want to have anything sexual to do with the donut.
We should change it to, like, slices of cake.
We can do that if you like.
Because I have not seen slices of cake being misused online.
I'm sure you're not looking hard enough if that's the case.
Probably.
So, anyway, harking way, way back. So this is something, maybe next year I'll see if I can get a cake analogy stall going and give people cake and talk about asexuality.
You should do like a donut stall and have the different donuts, but make sure you tell everyone the story before they get a donut.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool. Or I could do something about pansexuality and things like that. But anyway, we'll see. I've got a year of planning.
1 year of planning. We've got to do it. The one piece of controversy from this weekend's happenings was that there was somebody got double booked. Well, actually, the whole community got double booked.
What do you mean?
So they have Fair Day, and that's on the Sunday. And then I didn't see anything about there being a party after Fair Day, like no idea. Because, you know, they have there's like a big pool party the day before, so that's why everybody's a little bit less rowdy.
Under the weather
when they're at Fair Day. But so there was somebody organised a party. So it was one of the thirsty parties. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, there is actually another after party that's like the officially sanctioned one. I know, Sam, it's controversial.
You can't see it, but I'm giving Andrew confused and what the fuck eyebrows.
Yeah. So, like, there were two options for after Fair Day if you wanted to go and chill out. Fortunately, one was really chilled sort of event that was held in, like, a little wine bar. And the other one was, like, dance floor party. It was fun. I was on the dance floor.
No.
I know, it's hard to believe, right?
Totally difficult to believe. But, so, did you go to both, or could you only go to one? Or were they at slightly different times? What was the go?
I went to both. So, I went and had a couple beverages at the first place, and then I went on to the second place with the dance floor. But what I want to talk about is at the after party, something really amazing happened. Something that made me feel really proud of our community. So, do you know the drag queen Claudia Eyes Out? Claudia Eyes Out.
Yes.
Firstly, she's amazing. Secondly, she was performing, and there was so the venue was like what is normally a straight venue, but we just took it over for the night. And I don't think anyone told any of the other people there that it was like a gay thing. Anyway, so Claudia's doing her performance, and you know how there's that unwritten gay culture where it's like, okay, we're all going to stop dancing now and we're going to watch the drag show and respect the drag show. And we're going to respect what she's done.
Yeah.
Right. Well, apparently, straight girls don't know about this rule. So, there was this one girl who, I think she might have been somewhat inebriated, but not quite sure. While Claudia's like dancing around, miming to her number, doing a great job, she goes up to the DJ deck and she's like clearly asking for the next song. Like, oh, this song's crap. Can we have the next song? And who's this woman dancing? I have never seen a flock of drag queens swoop onto someone so quickly in my entire life. And all these gay boys as well just came out of not out of nowhere. They were clearly just standing on the dance floor, but to get her away from the DJ deck. And you could see, Claudia could see that this was happening. And you could see on her face, she was like, no one touching my song. Don't touch my song. And then, so security came and they took her out, not just outside into the other bar area, but completely out of the venue. Goodbye. Bye, Felicia. And, you know what's really sweet is I have never, ever heard the crowd in Cairns cheer quite so loudly as they did for Claudia when she finished her number. It was really beautiful. It's probably one of my favorite moments of the whole day, because it really demonstrated that whole spirit of togetherness, and that even though I am not a drag queen and don't pretend to be, I appreciate who they are and what they are doing as part of their journey, and just standing together together in solidarity with that. And it was just such a beautiful thing to watch. I absolutely loved it. And I do feel a little bit sorry for that girl who got kicked out.
Yeah, I was going to say she maybe didn't realise what she was doing, but it's nice to see everyone pull together.
What's that verse from the Bible? Forgive them because they don't know what they do. No, seriously, that is actually written in there somewhere. It was the other funny thing about this story is there was this female presenting person standing next to me who didn't see it all happen. Like, I guess they weren't watching or whatever. And she goes to me, what just happened? And I was like, oh, this woman tried to like change the song and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And she goes like, without even skipping a beat, and she'd seen none of it. She was like, oh, was she skinny, young and white? And I was like, probably yes to all of those things. And she's like, oh, typical.
Yeah, pretty much.
Thanks for listening to The Empty Closet. If you liked this episode, check out our podcast. Just search for Empty Closet Radio, hit the subscribe button, and you'll be kept up to date with all of our latest episodes.